Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heaping Spoonful, the podcast where we talk about the Mid-South food scene. My name is Brian McFadden. I am chef and owner of Brewed and Barley down there in Argenton, North Little Rock. I like to call it Dogtown. We've kind of embraced that in the past 5-6 years. We certainly embraced it since I've been here. But I have held every position in the restaurant business, from dish. I mean, I've been a server, I've been a bartender. But I will say this, is that this is the first restaurant that I've owned. And there's a big difference. Like, I've managed, I've GM'd, like bar managed, like done it all, ran kitchens, you know. This is definitely the first restaurant that I've owned, and there's a big difference in owning a restaurant than managing a restaurant. And I do feel like, man, there is something different every day. Something different every day.
Right.
So that voice that you hear right there, that is Josh Woodard of Shotgun Dan Pizza. And man, I got to tell you, so we are a pizza family.
Okay.
We are certainly a pizza family. And Shotgun Dan's is probably the best that I've had in North Little Rock, for sure.
That's awesome. We appreciate that.
And just like we were just talking to Rusty, I go to this one over here, and we're in Lakewood, but Brewed and Barley being where it is, like I'll just run up
to North Little Rock. Right, yeah.
Or if I'm like, hey, today's my day off, but I still got to run the will call at Benny Keith, so
right.
I'm going to stop and pick up a pizza.
Right, that's
and then
good.
Sometimes take it back to the staff, you know, but I will say that I am if you could tell by looking at me, I'm an eater. So, like, we get back to the restaurant with a pizza.
Yeah.
There's a slice missing, you know.
There's a lot of happiness around the dinner table.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk later about my family upbringing, but yeah, food was always involved.
Oh,
it was
man.
always front and center of gatherings, is who was bringing this dish, that dish, what have you. You know?
Man. And pizza is a huge thing, because not many people realize that, man, listen, like my wife and my kids, they're not sauce people, which is crazy because I'm a sauce guy.
Right, me too.
And I like, it's funny because I never narrowed it down like that, but my cousin is always like, man, you like Philly pizza sauce, you know? And I do, like a little acidic, but a little sweeter, you know, that type of stuff.
Right.
But then when you talk about dough, like this is doughy, this is crunchy, this is thin, this is hand tossed. Like, there's so many things that go into it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Pizza as a concept is, I think, in general, simple
Mm-hmm.
to execute, but extremely complicated on the backside, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, somebody the other day was asking me, you know, about my dough, and, you know, they've noticed there's some fluctuation. This particular person does, like, pizza night, Saturday night with their family. So, like, 20 people get together, and this guy does his own crust, and he was kind of, you know, hitting me with questions and, you know, troubleshooting it. And I said, hey, look, it is still baking, right?
Yeah.
We make our dough fresh every day, usually around 10 or 11. And so when you've got humidity outside, you know, you're going to have extra condensation when the dough's rising. And, I mean, it just kind of goes up and down. And that's what makes it fun, yet challenging at times. Because you're trying to execute, you know, I mean, in our line of work, consistency is key.
Yeah.
You know, consistent product every time. But,
And
you know, it's a challenge.
With everything, I mean, we talk about restaurant business because that's what we know, but with everything, like there's now with social media and everything like that, you have so many critics out there. Yeah. Everybody's a critic.
Yeah.
So it's like they might go into Shotgun Dan's or Brewed and Barley on a Tuesday, and they have a pizza. They get a large plain pizza or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about toppings, but
Okay.
But, you know, they get a large plane on a Tuesday, and then they're like, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to pick up a pizza home on Sunday. And then next thing you know, there's something out there on social media being like, well, I got it on Tuesday, it was great. But, you know.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it. I mean, it is baking. It is baking. It is a science.
Yep.
I mean, there is a science behind it, and there's so many different doughs out there.
Yeah.
What, like I say, like Shotgun Dan's dough, is it, you said you make it in the morning. Do you use it same day?
We don't. It needs about 18 hours of rise on it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's rising at room temperature.
Okay.
So it's a pretty basic dough recipe, but, over the years, we've tried different things. We've never tried to change the overall product, but,
Yeah.
I know at the North Little Rock location, one time we tried to, started buying green peppers instead of chopping them fresh. We did that like for 1 week.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how when you start trying to, buy something off the shelf, just losing that green pepper juice from chopping that green pepper fresh made such a huge impact. And so it's like, we're not going to go buy a frozen crust. We're not going to, whether we can't find employees or not, we're just going to have less pizzas. You got to go fresh.
Yeah.
As much as you can, you got to go fresh. And that's, we try to do that each and every day.
So that's a big it's so funny you said that. When I walked out, you were standing at the desk waiting on me, but I popped in to say hello to Shane. He's the chef here at Benny Keaton.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that because I'm like looking for like microgreens and looking for a couple things. And,
right.
And he's like, oh man, it's like this fresh stuff. I mean, you got to use it fresh. You have to use it fresh. And we're talking about micros and this and that. And it's just like, it's mind boggling. And I don't think a lot of people understand that too. Yeah. Is that, I mean, a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast understand it, but we certainly go through that. I mean, think about what you just said. Like, okay, I could buy the green peppers already chopped.
Yep.
And I don't have to pay somebody to stand there for an hour, hour and a half, or you probably go through a lot of green peppers.
That's right.
So it could be twice a day.
One store, we were having some issues with payroll, so we thought, hey, we'll bring them in an hour later. We'll try to, and, I think for us, the reason why you've been successful and we maintain our success is we put the customer and the end product at the highest point of regard. Right. Yeah. So we'll try something in-house, but if it doesn't meet top standards, then you'd get rid of it. I've got some friends over at Walmart and, I'm jumping off in another direction, but I'll circle back. Walmart is who they are because they weren't afraid to innovate, but the biggest key this guy told me is they will scratch it in a heartbeat.
Oh, okay.
So they're very innovative in processes and changes, but they all try it in-house. And if it doesn't meet the end goal, I mean, if it's, for them, it's like a $20 million project, right?
Yeah.
They will just scratch it.
Done.
They will not force it to try to force an efficiency because they invested $20 million. It's gone. Like me, if I spend $300 or $400 on thinking we're going to buy some bagged green peppers and I try that first pizza, no.
Yeah. Not happening.
Chunk it.
Yeah.
Throw that in the trash. It's not good for the customer. Get rid of it.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say all of it. Now, I think it has gotten better, but what a lot of people don't know is when it comes to chopped vegetables that you're buying, or especially we didn't even touch cheese yet. When we talk about cheese, there's a difference in shredding your own cheese and buying shred, and there is great products out there. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
I've used shredded cheeses that are fantastic, but some of the stuff is treated. Some of the stuff is tossed in a starch or something like that. And it melts different. It's just a thing. So that could be. Those green peppers are probably great, but maybe they got citric acid on them or something like that. That's not gonna, that's gonna save them.
Yep.
There's a difference. I mean, it is.
That's right.
It is. It's crazy, and nowadays everybody's talking. Between fruits and vegetables and all that stuff and keeping up with that stuff. I mean, that's another part of the restaurant business too, is where is this coming from? Where, we always hit that time of year where the limes, the case of limes doubles in price. And I'm calling my produce guy and using some choice words, and then I'm also talking to my receiver and being like, yo, bro, it's a $120 case of limes. You accepted that? Not to mention that one doesn't look very good.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on too is we talked about it walking up here to the studio. You asked me if I worked yesterday.
Yeah.
So we're in a unique position down there, with Simmons Arena. And now I open up every Monday.
That's right.
But we had a concert last night. So I got at work a little bit before 9 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
which is actually a little later for a
Yeah, I
morning
was
guy.
assuming you usually got in there 7:38, something like that.
I am in charge of dropping my children off in the morning at school.
As am I. I'm dropping off this year every day at 7:30.
Yes. So my kids, which is really cool. So,
Yep.
I have twin boys. They have like this little breakfast club, like all their friends, and they're 9 years old.
That's
you
cool.
know, so they eat breakfast at school. So
Nice.
I have to be like up. Like, so this morning, Oliver comes walking in, and I'm already awake. I'm just laying there.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, "Hey, Dad, 7 o'clock." I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I got you, man. I got you." He's like, "Well, we got to be there by 7:15." Like they all meet at this table. It's cool. I think it's great. I miss those days, of course. But so it was definitely a little late for me to get to the restaurant yesterday because I dropped them off, and then I had the normal parenting stuff. I had to stop by, CVS and pick up something, somebody's, medication, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I think of, my regular hot side people, if they were to walk in the door at like 8:30, 8:45, I'd be like, "Where have you been?" So that, I come walking in, and my guys in the morning that have been there with me since I opened the restaurant look at me like,
They're busting your
"Hey,
chops.
chef." I'm like, "Shut up, man. Shut up."
Hey, can we get a write-up for the chef?
Yeah, exactly.
Which one of us is going to sign it? Oh, yeah.
But then, I start talking trash, and I'm like, "You know what? I will have this whole kitchen set up in 45 minutes. How long does it take you to set this thing up, But, yeah, I worked from, like, almost 9 o'clock, and I got home at a little after midnight last night.
Yeah.
Those are days that you have to put in every once in a while. It happens. It's a unique situation. It's very rare I have to do that on a Monday, but Friday, Saturday night, man. You see me, you come in, like, now I'll sit down on the patio with you at the end of the night and have a drink.
Once your rush is slowed down, you get to mingle a little bit, but you've still been on your feet since 8 o'clock that morning.
Yeah, and hopefully I don't have to run. And I love Benny Keith, but I don't want to go to Will Call on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's right.
But everybody knows, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, all right, so I'm almost 5 years in, okay? But, Shotgun Dan's, how, 20 years now?
Oh, no. We've been around since 77.
It's been, that's right. I did read that. Yeah, okay.
Me for 20, you're remembering that I've been involved about 20 years, 22 years exactly. But, my dad and another gentleman started in 1977.
That's crazy.
So we're at, 47 years was this last summer.
Now, what was the first location?
So, I've done a few pieces in the last couple of years, and, I'm really enjoying, doing more public conversations, appearance, podcasts, things with, like Channel 4 or whatever. And there's always this debate. Rose City was the first store. Sherwood was the first store, whatever. So I've learned to be PC, and I'm like, you're both right. I'm getting a little bit more wise as I get older. Sherwood was the actually first leased spot that Dad went into, like in a shopping center. But Rose City was the first built freestanding location, right? Okay. So a lot of people think Rose City was first because, it was the built building or whatever, because they were very close. They were, Sherwood was open in 77, and then I believe Rose City was like 78, 79. I don't remember exact because I was born in 79. So
me too.
I got no credit on having to remember that. But so they bumped along, and then they started the Little Rock location in 1985.
Okay. And
then in 87, where the Sherwood location is now, he built that freestanding store. And then next door, we've got a corporate office, in which half of that now is leased out to a pharmacy. But we actually owned a liquor store at one time, too, in the 90s.
Wow. Yeah,
my dad, that was before. I got a little piece of that when I got back from college. But so we've got, we could go into that, too, how that differentiates from customer interaction in a restaurant versus a liquor store. It's there's some similarities but a lot of differences. You don't get keyboard warriors at liquor stores. People are pretty chill. They're going to a party or what have you. So if you ever want to get away from any kind of complaints or grumblings, you just go in the liquor business.
That might
but
be
very demanding.
I mean-
hours are very demanding as well.
that might be dangerous.
Yeah.
That might be dangerous. I have one of the gentlemen that works for me. His parents have owned a liquor store for God knows how many years. I don't even know where it is, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
think it's in Sherwood somewhere.
Okay.
But he'll show up and be like, "Hey, chef, I got you a bottle of this." And I'd be like, "Dude, this is like a $50, $60 bottle of booze. Like,
Yeah.
what do you give it?" Oh, he's like, "My dad gave it to me, man. He told me to try it." So
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, jeez." I'm like, just
Yeah.
put it away. We'll get into this
Yeah,
afterwards,
that's right.
all right? Just stop
That's
it.
right. That's right.
Now, your dad and friend opened up 77.
Right.
You were born in 79. Was that the plan all along? Like you were gonna do pizza also, or what were your thoughts there?
No, that was not the plan originally. It's funny. I didn't really work in the restaurant when I was in my, young and teenage years. Dad had a little small farm. My dad was also full-time military. So he ended up in Arkansas. He's a Louisiana guy. He ended up here in Arkansas to work out at the Little Rock Air Base.
Oh, wow.
As a guardsman. Yeah, he was a navigator, and at that time he was in they're called KC-135s. It's like a jet refueler, and that's what he did in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the mid '80s, they got a different mission, and they ended up with the C-130, the big cargo planes.
Yeah, okay.
So he was a navigator in that. So he did that full time, starting in '76. He was part time in '76 when he moved up here. His one of his best friends forever, Danny Stedman, who was also a big part of the startup of Shotgun Dan's. We could delve into that later too. But Danny got him a job here at Little Rock Air Force Base, part time.
Mm-hmm.
And they started, talking and dreaming about, getting this pizza thing going. And him and a lot of guys, everybody was talking out at the air base, hey, do this, do that, do this. And so he kicked it off. He ended up doing it with another guy. He kicked it off, and he told me 30 days in, maybe 60 days into the restaurant, he gets offered a full-time slot out at the air base.
Oh, wow.
So he's working 50, 60, 70 hours at the pizza restaurant, still trying to work like 20 hours out at the air base. Now he's gotten offered a 40 plus hour. And he's like, hey, I've opened a restaurant 60 days ago.
Yeah.
And I had to take it because I was still kind of scared, that big step opening your first store.
Yeah, first year.
So he took it. So for 23 years, my dad retired in 99. He worked 2 full-time jobs basically.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, me being able to be here today and have the flexibility that I have in my life is, off the sweat and hard work of my old man. And, my mom played an integral role keeping the house together and keeping all his kids taken care of and ran here and ran there and everything, so.
Man, I can tell
Those
you.
two killed it for me.
People back then, so I didn't know. I guess we're the same age. We were born in 79.
Yeah.
My mother, which I've brought up, I think I've on all the podcasts so far.
Yeah.
My mom is 7 years old. She still serves tables.
Wow.
And I will say this, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I know some servers that have been in the business a long time that I think my mom will run some circles around
Yeah.
at 70 years old. I think people back then were just built different.
Yeah.
I mean, your dad.
She displayed that work ethic, and that's carried over to you.
Oh, man. My mom, she's just a beast, man.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, too, because Gary and I were talking about this not too long ago. My mom, if you see my mom and then you look at me, you're going to be like, there's no way. There's no way.
Okay.
My mom is like 100 pounds soaking wet.
Okay.
5 foot tall. But she worked tray service for years.
Yeah.
She worked at this restaurant called Via Venito's, Italian, like not fine dining,
Yeah.
but like kind of in the middle there, just carrying.
And this in Philadelphia?
Just outside of Philly,
Okay.
a town called Horsham. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this place was called Via Venito's, and tray service. But now, my mom has had 3 jobs my entire life, and the only reason why the other 2 didn't work out is because the restaurant's closed after like 20-something years.
Wow.
The guys were just like,
Burn out or retiring. Yeah.
She has the first job right now where the first time in her life that she's ever using a POS system.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
crazy.
huge at 70.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
She's calling you, I'm sure, on the regular, like, I'm getting it finally, but I still don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a guest check ticket. Give me a paper ticket.
She's gotten it now, but for a while there, it was like she'd run back to the kitchen and be like, hey, you know, table 25, like, can you just add a side of mayonnaise or, you know, whatever to that? And they're like, Deb, you got to put it in through the system.
Yep.
Like, it's like, that's just a side.
That's right. That's right.
But all right, so when did you get involved in the pizza? Like,
yeah, so I got a little off track. ADD kicked in right there. Didn't have enough coffee. But so in my teenage years, we had a little 10-acre farm right near the air base. And, you know, I think Dad was just so busy doing the military thing, doing the restaurant thing, that when he got to the weekends or he got some free time, he just enjoyed, you know, piddling around with our cows, our horses. And, you know, he was a project guy.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you would think a guy that's got 2 full-time jobs, you know, 3 kids, you know, I mean, busy. He was into, you know, activities outside of work. He liked to gamble the horses a little bit. He deer hunted a lot. But he always found time to, you know, I think we're going to put in some automatic waterers at the barn for the horses and the cows. Like, what now? yeah, I found these things. And so, I mean, we're digging trenches, putting in water line, and so I grew up doing that. And, you know, that was huge.
Yeah.
Just learning to be very hands-on, you know, learning those handyman type traits or whatever. But I didn't get into the restaurant full-time until I got back from college. So I didn't really get into the restaurant cooking and doing different things till 2002 when I graduated college. And, you know, that was never the plan because he had a partner and they had kind of made an agreement that, you know, hey, we can't bring on your 3 kids and my 2 kids, 3 kids, what have you.
Yeah.
With the other guy, so it really wasn't an option. So when I went to college, I was going for accounting.
Okay.
And great that I have some of that background, but I'll be honest with you, Brian, I was not great at it.
Mm-hmm.
I was not great at it. BC student at best. And but I guess it was 99, 2000 when they were going through some negotiations. My dad ended up getting the business.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the moment I was going through some challenging times in life with partying at University of Arkansas Fayetteville. That was it can be a big party school.
Yeah.
But I was transitioning to kind of cutting that back and getting back into my faith. And then that happened. And I knew I wasn't great at accounting. I was kind of like, hey, this is meant to be.
Yeah.
Like I've always wanted to be with my dad in the capacity, hanging out each day on an ongoing basis. And so I was doing the accounting thing just to be like, hey, let me do your books. Maybe I can work in your office, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Because we were just that close. And then that happened, and I was just like, okay, now I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, here we go.
You know, so I changed my degree and told him, hey, I'm pursuing that. That's what I'd like to do. Because he had not really tried to push me towards that.
Mm-hmm.
He just really wanted me to make that decision on my own. He passed back in the spring and suffered with Alzheimer's for almost 10 years. But, you know, I think he would humbly admit that he encouraged my older 2 siblings, you know, down their career paths, and I think influenced that a little too heavy.
Gotcha.
You know, and so I think he changed. And, you know, I think that's tough for my brother and sister, you know. But I will tell you, having 5 kids of my own, you know, one thing I tell my oldest boy, he's 17, hey, this is my first time at this moment in life to ever handle this situation. Yeah. Whatever it be. Yeah. You first driving, you getting a cell phone, whatever. You know, this is my first moment as a dad to parent a kid through that. Yeah. So, you know, I think parents that, you know, maybe listen is like, don't beat up yourself too bad about the first couple kids. You're learning just like they're learning. Yeah, exactly. Right. You know, so it's like, you know, oh, you treated the baby so much better. Yeah, because they figured the crap out. Yeah. You know, and we can circle that back to restaurants. Like, you know, hey, once you've been managing for some years, you kind of learn what works, you know, and doesn't work. Yeah. But I got involved in and started learning the office side of things and just kind of lightly cooking in the kitchen and learning that side of it. But he was very determined to teach me management. Yeah. You know, interaction with your vendors and your employees that you work alongside, not work for you. You know, is how I try to lead that way. It's like, hey, we're working together. I think that's important. I'm trying not really to pull rank. Yeah. You know, I joked on the other day. I said, this is the only time I'm gonna pull rank. They said, "Boy, what are you pulling rank on?" I said, I'm not wearing the non-slip shoes. And they're like, what? I said, they're hideous. I'm not going to wear them. I said, I don't plan on suing myself, so I'm going to wear my fancy tennis shoes in the restaurant. But that's the only time I'm going to try to pull rank lately.
You have to every once in a while.
Yeah, that's right.
You have to. But it's funny you talk about that. So, with my kids, everybody's always like, oh, the boys are going to, they're going to come and work in the restaurant with you. And I'm like, I don't know if I want that for them. I don't know. I mean, I love the restaurant business, but it takes a certain kind of person,
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, and it's so funny, like looking at my calendar. So I'm looking at the calendar. Listen, man, I forget everything.
Yeah.
And my wife is going to listen to this. And right then, she was probably like, amen.
Amen.
I forget everything. So if you look at my calendar, say for next month, I mean, there's something on every day, even if it's just like Evan's soccer practice or, whatever it may be, But they're like, oh, the kids are going to work in the restaurant. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if they want to start washing dishes, like I'm not going to force them to do it. And then Oliver's like, well, what if I want to work? I'm not going to stop you, but I want you to make that decision on your own.
That's right.
Because I mean, you see what we do, you see what Daddy does, Daddy worked 18 hours yesterday, and I wasn't.
That might be why you should get a pass for forgetting stuff.
Yeah.
Lack of sleep.
There's certain people that just won't give you that pass.
Yeah. That's true.
But you and I are both blessed. One of the things that my dad said is, you need a good woman, and I think you and I are both blessed in that fact for sure. I think we both married up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When I was going through that transition, trying to step away from, drinking pretty hard, partying, whatever. I mean, that was kind of my first prayer for a while was, God send me a good woman. Unfortunately, ever since I've been still struggling being me by not wanting to be led. Leaders are not the easiest to be led at times, and so I always every now and then. That's right, all the time. Every now and then, I'm just like, hey, thank you. I know I'm difficult, but thank you. I know you were sitting here for me. I just need to get better at listening.
There's times where I'm like, where we might have a meeting going on at the restaurant that I need to be at, and this is one thing that I struggle with. Well, it's not a struggle. I guess it's a good thing. Man, I can't be late anywhere. I can't do it. Like, I can't do it. My mind will start racing. Like, if somebody says, Brain, like, I need you there at 10 o'clock. Like, I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock. And if there's somebody in my way of getting in there on time, I lose it, man. Yeah. Like, I really do. Like, I will be like, get in the car. Or like, the dog, he's got food, he's got water. I know he's part of the family. He's good.
Yeah,
we got to go.
That's
Let's go. Yeah. I know it's going to take me 11 minutes to get to Bennett. I'm going to be there on time.
That's right.
And if anybody gets in that way, it's tough.
I better watch out.
And you can ask like any one of my employees. I mean, they show up 5 minutes late and I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is good.
Yeah.
Thank you. And they're like, Jeff, I had trouble parking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I did too.
Yeah. Another sign of a leader, though. I mean, you've got standards that you don't, kind of, you hold to it. There's a line on certain things,
But if you look at my calendar, dude, and this is what a lot of people don't understand either, and I know that I would be very surprised if you don't go through this too, depending on the facility and stuff. Like, I can tell you at Brood and Barley, like, so today is the 28th. Is that right? 27th?
27th, yeah.
27th. On today's Tuesday, so Thursday morning, my guy who opens up in the morning after we put truck away, we treat our drains because I have to. Yeah. I got to treat them like every 2 weeks, or else next thing you know, it's going to be Friday night and something's coming up through the drain. Yep. It's a nature of the building, and I have to do it. So it's like, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, Mm-hmm. We talk about relationships with vendors and stuff. Like, I have a relationship with our exterminator. Yep. Through the summer, he's there once a week, and we don't have any problems. It's just maintenance.
That's right.
Yes. So much more that goes into it other than just showing up and cooking.
Right.
It's a lot different.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't get that. I know there's a lot of people listening to this podcast right now being like, I treat my drains too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, there was a time where I was carrying around a 16-foot ladder, crawling up on my roofs and changing out the filters on the vent hoods.
Man.
You know, just because now me, I like doing a lot of that stuff. You know, that I tell people that, you know, sometimes they say, well, what do you do? And I said, a lot of times I feel like I'm a really overpaid maintenance man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm a mentor, a coach, and a high paid price maintenance man. You know. But,
So you talk about that. We're talking about one of my biggest fears right now. You know, this is the only thing in this world that I'm afraid. If you looked at me and you said, all right, Brian, you got to get up on that ladder and go like 30 feet on the roof to change some filters, or you got to fist fight Gary Seibel. I'm fighting Gary.
oh my gosh, that tells me how bad afraid your heights you are.
Yeah. And I would get
Gary's
pummeled.
A beast.
Yeah, he's
Right.
a monster. He would pummel me.
Yeah.
But I'll take a swing at Gary before I get up on that ladder.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I hate heights.
Yeah.
So you see a brood, like you see the speakers and the lights that hang from the ceiling. Like, I don't even know how high that is, but it's high.
Yeah.
We got a guy, Adam. I'm like, Adam, what are you doing on Sunday? And, you know, and he'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this. He's a beekeeper. He's got all this stuff. I said, how you feel?
Yeah, I met him the other night at your
Yes.
your special. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
Such a good dude.
Yeah.
But he'll put his headphones on, he'll get a giant ladder, and he'll go up and dust all those lights and the ceiling fan and stuff. I pay him good for it because I ain't doing it, man. I can't.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And I don't want my cousin to try to do it because he will try to do it.
Yeah, we don't want Jess falling off a ladder.
Yeah, don't do it. We'll pay Adam. Yeah, let's just pay Adam to do it.
So I'm used to be still a little bit afraid of heights. So my dad, going back to him, the project guy, right? We're out at the house, and he's like, "Hey, you see all that rust up at the barn?" And yeah, he said, "I've been talking to this guy, Lester Cossey, out at the air base, and he said they make this product that you can paint on the tin. It's like rubberized paint where you can put on the tin." And I'm like, "Okay," and I know where this is going.
Yeah.
But I'm like, "Yeah, who's going to do that?" You know, he's like, "I'm thinking we're going to do it." And you know, same as me. It's like if I think I can do it, I'm going to try it. So he rents a 60-foot boom lift.
Oh, man.
I'm afraid of heights too.
Yeah.
And he's like, I said, okay, what's the game plan? He's like, well, we're going to take the 5-gallon bucket up there. We're going to take a mop. We're going to boom up to the peak. Then I'm going to let you out. And I'm going to put a rope around you, and we're going to paint this roof. And I'm like, what now? And, you know, I mean, he's an officer in the military, so you don't tell him no a whole lot, right? So that helped me get over my fear of heights real quick because there was no option of saying no, you know. And so I had to get out there, and he had a rope underneath my arms, and we mopped that barn, you know. But it's a lot like that in the restaurant day to day.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
There's a lot of times there is no. Like there's no other guy other than Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you're shorthanded a couple people, there is no, oh, we're just closing early or going home.
No, what?
You gotta strategize and get it executed, you know.
Gotta do it.
And so he taught me, I didn't know it at the time, but you know, watching your mother work as hard as she did and just be consistent and be dedicated.
Oh yeah.
All those little nuances that we were seeing, that whole upbringing helped develop us to be prepared for those days where you're like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Man, I think I'd like something a little more cushy, you know, whatever that may be.
I don't know what it is, but I want that.
Yeah. You know.
I will say this, though. I mean, the positives like certainly outweigh the negatives for sure. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it that a lot of people don't understand what happens in the background. But you take, and I had one of those nights. I had 2-3 weeks ago when I saw you and Jill and Gary and Lisa like out on the patio, and you know I still was sitting there in my apron and still had my towels on me and everything. But you know I was like, I'm pretty much done for the night. I can sit down, have a drink with some friends, and just BS and talk some crap, you know, and, you know, that type of thing. Then you look around, you're like sitting on the front patio, and you're like, yeah, all right. This is okay.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah, it was that night. I think it was like 70. I think that's when we had that little bit of a cool down here in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So it was like 75 degrees, a little bit of a breeze. I think we got there a little late, so it was about 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. Man, it was nice.
That's what makes it worth it there, you know.
It does.
Which is an argument because, you know, nobody ever told me when I moved to Arkansas I was going to be this hot. That's some crap, man. This is ridiculous.
That's how bad they wanted you. They were lied to you just from the get-go.
Yesterday, like, so again, I'm in the kitchen, but at the same time, I'm standing in the doorway of the kitchen, and we had just opened, and there's a couple walks in. So I'm like, okay, my hostess, she's in the back, just making sure that the back patio is set up. I can seat these people,
Yeah.
So I walk up to the front, and I just like treat it like any other day. So I'm like, oh, would you like to sit outside or inside? And that guy looked at me and like, outside? Are you kidding me? Like the look on his face was like, I want to sit inside, man. I want to sit right there.
That's right,
The vent's right there, and it's going to blow right on me. That's where I want to sit.
That's right.
I'm like, all right, man. I mean, you're the first people in the restaurant. You got free run.
Yeah.
You do anything you want. Do anything you want.
Where is the best air-conditioned spot in your restaurant? Maybe sitting up at the bar? Y'all got a beautiful bar.
Man, all right, there's two places that I sit.
Okay.
And I'm guessing in your restaurant, you have places where you like to
Absolutely.
sit too. One is so if you walk in and you look directly at the bar, that corner against the wall, we call it B1. That's bar 1.
Okay.
And our seat numbers, they go around, 1 to 17 now. I like B1. One, I can see everything in the restaurant from that seat. I can see who's coming, who's going, hallway. I can see in the kitchen a little bit.
Okay, so you sit with your back to the wall where you can kind of look to the right, see down the kitchen alley,
Yep.
and you can see the front door. Okay, so I was going to say, bringing back up Gary, if your back was to the front door, Gary was going to tell you about that. He was going to hear this podcast and say, that's not being, what would he say, tactically sound.
Tactically sound.
He would impute some advice there, for sure.
I got a Gary story for you. I'll tell you in a minute. But I sit there. It is cool, and I can see everything.
Yeah.
Or the booth that's closest to the hallway, to like where the bathrooms and stuff, to go out to the back patio. That right there it's table 14, and I like sitting there because, one, if I sit with my back to the bathroom, like to the hallway, I can pretty much see everything in the restaurant, and it is nice and cool right there. Yeah. There is a vent there that,
you can sit there, work on the laptop, doing scheduling, doing orders,
Yep, you name it. I try to angle the laptop so nobody else can see it other than me, or else, people peeking, hey, chef, I thought that was my shift.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like, just stop, right? I just started. I just sat down. Leave me alone.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, our office in the winter is way too cold, and in the summer is way too hot. I mean, there's a little ventilation back there, but I also like being out front and talking to the people and that kind of thing.
So we've gone a long way off kind of one of those questions you asked me, but I got into it selfishly. I got in this business selfishly to just work with my old man.
Yeah,
and we had a good run. He didn't start really having troubles until, I guess he was diagnosed in 2014, but we easily had a good 10 years there. But now it's morphed into what was supposed to be my calling, and that's the relationships, whether it be with the customers, whether it be with the employees, my management team. I know that that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it's really nice that I went into it for kind of self-centered reasons, but I knew, that the calling really was to, build these relationships, to be able to interact with, with customers. Like I got a chance to work in the store, and I say I got a chance. I had some pretty serious medical issues the last few years, didn't know what was going on, but I'm coming out of that, and I worked a Friday night at the Sherwood store a couple of weekends ago, and I went out and did table visits.
Yeah.
And, some of them will ask me my story of how it started, and it's just, man, what a blessing. Just, I didn't realize how much I missed that day-to-day, like getting a chance to visit with people and talk. And that's probably the most rewarding, above the, amazing foods you may create. I mean, because you guys at Brood and Barley dude, you guys are killing it. I mean, I've never been in there and had anything that I didn't think was a knockout. I mean, straight up, not just podcast talk. I mean, for real. I was telling Gary that the other night, But above that, above the money, it's just, you're sitting down at the end of the night, maybe, like you did with us, or you're sitting down with a cook that's walking through a season in his life that just needs somebody to listen.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of encouragement, maybe a little bit of help,
Yeah.
That's the most rewarding side of it. And, it's hard to tell your boys that. It's hard to express to your boys what that really feels like. You got to almost kind of live it,
Yeah.
So if somebody was going in the industry, we've struggled the last several years in the restaurant industry finding people this and that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think we've got to get back to emphasizing the hospitality side of what, that we're in the hospitality industry.
It's called that for a reason.
Yeah, we're supposed to be hospitable.
Yeah.
And part of that is engaging with your customers, engaging with your crew. And I think for too long, we've always been like, hey, you're going to make some really good tips here.
Yeah.
Or hey, we're good on scheduling. We try not to overwork you, whatever. And it's like, yeah, we're missing the side of how awesome it is to provide food to a family.
Yeah.
It's just wanting to step away from stress of the Google counter you talked about earlier.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
okay, the Woodards are going to come in to brood. They're going to sit down and they just want an hour to just forget about work, baseball schedules, dance, whatever, and enjoy good food that came about from, like some of your family history. Had the meatloaf the other night, first time ever. Phenomenal.
Man.
Gary's been telling me, but I'm usually always stuffed because I've had like the cheese pretzels and then I maybe had the Philly cheesesteak sandwich. So I just hadn't worked over to that yet. But that's a family dish, right?
Yeah, it's a family recipe. That's my dad's. And that was like, I think I had said it the other night, growing up, my parents were always like, it's your birthday, we'll make them whatever you want. Yeah. And my sisters were always like, oh, damn, it's Brian's birthday, we're having meatloaf, but I love it, I love it. And we didn't know how it was going to sell at the restaurant. Yeah. It's like my top 3 best-selling dishes. Yeah. And I never expected that. I just wanted to put a little piece of my family on there.
Right.
It was awesome. Right. We got to get into food, but I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, and then I really want to talk food. I do want to talk about how we met, though, so we're going to lead into that, but I want to talk food. Not just pizza, but I want to talk about some stuff like some family stuff.
Okay.
Let's get in there.
Sounds awesome.
All right, we'll be right back with Heaping Spoonful. Come listen.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Chef Brian McFadden.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Heaping Spoonful. I'm Brian McFadden. We're sitting here with Josh Woodard of Shotgun Dan Pizza. And Josh, one of the things I wanted to touch on today is how we met. So,
okay.
I got to tell you this right now, and I've said this to certain people, and everybody thinks I'm name dropping or that kind of stuff, but I'm really not, because I'll start here. Even when I started interviewing people for Brewed and Barley, man, I got to tell you, and people said I was stupid, but man, I just moved down here like 1,800 miles away.
Right.
I don't know the restaurants down here, and quite frankly, I don't care. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that I wouldn't care if you worked at the Ward Astoria, and that's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But everybody was like, oh, you got to hire that person. They worked over there. Yeah. Well, I don't care about that place. Like, I'm trying to do something unique here. I want unique people that are going to buy into what we're doing,
That's right.
But then, of course, I moved down here and COVID hit.
Jeez.
And it was, the whole world shut down after. Yeah. And, then I'm second guessing. I'm like, oh, my God, I just moved my family 1,800 miles away and the world fell apart. What's happening, Yeah. But next thing you know, I got this guy that walks in the door and he starts coming in. Sometimes he comes in by himself. Sometimes he comes in with his wife. And that's our mutual friend, Gary Seibel. Yep. I know you've known Gary a lot longer than me. Yeah. But Gary had this great idea, and he said, listen, man, he said, with everything going on, he said, I've lived in the area a long time, and I've built some awesome relationships with some restaurateurs. Yeah. And he said, do you know who John Brandenburger is? And I said, no. And he said, he owns Community Bakery. And I said, oh, I love Community Bakery. Yeah. And then he says, do you know who Rich Cosgrove is? And I said, no. And he said, he owns Whole Hog. I said, I love Whole Hog. Yeah, right. And he said, well, listen, I think what I want to do is like kind of get everybody together, and like through this tough time, like we can all sit down like once a month and we can BS. And if anybody needs help, you know?
Yeah.
And just like I spoke about, you know, like I've managed many restaurants, but, you know, it's the first one I've ever owned.
Right.
So, like, yeah, I got some questions.
Yeah.
I certainly got some questions.
Absolutely.
You know, and you take a guy like Rich Cosgrove that he has, you know, I mean, he's got employees that have worked for him forever, you know?
Yes.
His turnover rate of his employees is next to nothing.
Yeah.
You know, he's doing something right.
Yeah, he is.
You know, and it's just like you said before we took a break. You got to take care of your people. I mean, you have to take care of your people, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
You know, John Brandenburg at Community Bakery, he is a, you know, the guy's a monster, and he's an East Coast boy. He's a Brooklyn boy.
Right.
So, like, we hit it off right away, and these guys have all these insights, just little things, you know?
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot. But now, I even forget what it says. I have it saved in my phone, but it's like food philosophy and stuff. I mean, this is what we call the group now. You know?
Yeah, I think Gary. Yeah, food philosophy and fun or something.
Yeah. And it ends up. I mean, we just get together and we talk, and sometimes we have serious conversations. Sometimes we don't. You know, sometimes we're just having coffee and talking crap and talking trash to each other. You know, but you know, but I feel like it's a great outlet.
Absolutely.
And since then, you know, we have. Aaron Fowler, Cyber Social. We got Dan Kovac at Copper Grill. Yep. And we have brought many, I would say, guests like into the group, but not many people. I'm not saying make the cut. That sounds terrible because it's not like that. It's like, but it has to be cohesive, just like, you know, employees and that kind of stuff.
Just like your management team or your shift lead that or, you know, your key employees for executing something. You find that rhythm.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of find, you know, who brings what to the table, who's injecting a little bit of laughter, who's injecting, you know, oh, hey, let's talk about this tax benefit. Or, you know, and I think that's probably.
Hey, did you guys hear about this?
Yeah, I think that's what Gary, you know, thought with me, introducing me to the group. You know, I'd been meeting with some other restaurateurs a little bit before that. And I will tell you that in that group that I was a part of, you know, when we were going through COVID and there was, you know, there was money out there to help support, keep your doors open and pay your staff, whatever. Some of these other guys in the industry are, you know, pretty big hitters, and they're up to date on all that stuff. I mean, I was at a dinner one night with Travis Hester, this guy Eat My Catfish, and then at the time it was at Josh. I can't remember Josh's name right off, but he had the Chick-fil-A out in Little Rock, and you know they had told me about, you know, one of these opportunities to get through COVID, and I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, you know, a huge amount of money that I was able to inject in the business to keep all my employees on.
Yeah.
We didn't lay off anybody.
That's awesome.
Because, you know, the government was helping, you know, keep us restaurants open during that time or going. You know, I know we had to close our doors down. You guys, we all went through that. But, you know, making those personal connections is huge.
It's giant.
Yeah. And, nobody's going to do that better than Gary.
Yeah.
He knows.
He is the connection.
Yeah, he knows everybody and somebody. Yeah.
For sure.
But that's been a blessing for, you know, him to introduce us to. And, you know, it's just good to have somebody to have an ear, you know, if you got to complain a little bit or if you say, hey, you know, let's make sure we're getting this credit, you know, because we've got servers. There's, you know, my accountant just introduced me to that. Maybe we'll talk about that next week at our meeting.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you're getting those things out there because then, you know, you can pay your staff better and keep this thing going. You know, we're 47 years and, you know, we're looking for 50. And then after 50, we're looking at 55. And then, you know, that's what we're kind of doing.
And, you know, again, you know, I've said it like a few times, just another piece of the business that you have to be aware of, you know. Yeah. And, you know, taking care of employees and you know, so many people say that, you know, and this is one thing. Gary looks at me. He always smiles every time I say this, you know. I even brought it up the other day at the dinner, you know. Like, I got a good brood family. Like, I have a good work family, you know. And, like, you know, when you sit down, you interview people, and people say, like, if you ever go into an interview and that person says, like, we got a good family here, like, run the other direction. Because that means, like, people aren't being held accountable, people aren't doing this and that. It's like, I believe that to a certain extent, you know. But I also believe that, you know, when somebody works for you for 20 years, they're pretty much family.
Yes.
You know that person's, you know, backwards and front. And, you know, they come over to your house for holiday parties and stuff like that. So they are a piece of the family.
Absolutely.
You know? There's an extent there, you know. And you got to take care of your people. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about a little bit more family, but I want to talk about food in the family.
Okay. All right.
So I can tell you right now that, we mentioned like my dad's meatloaf. I've mentioned already on this podcast before that, my older sister was a terrible cook.
Okay.
And until she got married and basically to like, it was like, all right, we got to figure this out.
Her feet were to the fire, right?
Yeah. And now she's a great cook. Now she's
Yeah.
awesome. Now we're going
Yeah.
25 years later, but I mean,
Yeah.
but she can cook,
Yeah.
she can cook now. With me, like I was kind of like forced to learn how to cook because, well, my mom was working.
Yeah.
My dad worked for the newspaper. So I was home and I had to fend for myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not eating this microwave crap. I'm not doing it. I got to learn how to cook,
Right.
That's just how it is.
Yeah.
But we talk about like certain dishes. Like, was there anything that like your mom or dad like cooked, not at the restaurant, like at home, that you were like, oh yes, tonight is this night? Like something you were like happy about, like mom makes the best roast chicken or what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I still ask for. My birth month is June. I say birth month because that's back to my dad's military. Like every June, you get a physical, you get your whole body checked out. I mean, it's that military stuff, right? So like every June month, I'm like, Mom, I want some chicken and dressing that you're gonna make at Thanksgiving, but I want it in June.
I want it in June.
Yeah, it's yellow cornbread mashed up with some chicken that she's cooked, and just man, it's amazing. Celery, onion, chicken, tons of cornbread, a giblet gravy. Just amazing. I took my daughter over there last year to have my mom sit down and teach us, both of us, how to make it, make sure, because she's just always done it. But, she's getting a little older and, I hit 45 this year like you. And so it's like you start thinking about some of these legacy things that have just always happened, but you've never really kind of had that. You're like, why have we not sat down and done this?
Yeah.
So that comes to mind. And then my dad liked to, he liked to grill and cook steaks, this and that. But I'd say his one side that comes to mind that I always enjoyed was his baked beans.
Oh man.
So he would do like,
how many people do good baked beans?
Yeah, I mean, it had green peppers in it, onion, chunks of pork chop. I mean, bacon. I mean, it was almost a meal in itself.
Yeah.
But nothing to do with pizza,
Yeah.
But that was just kind of, that was this thing. Like people ask me all the time, like, well, do you eat pizza all the time? I'm like, man, do you know how much pizza? I mean, I was born into pizza. I was born into it. Yeah, I still eat it, but not as much as people that don't have a pizza restaurant think.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'd be bringing it home every night. It's like, I don't know. Have you worked in the restaurant business?
Yeah, you probably are going to eat it every night for a month, and then you're going to be like, I am done.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. So I got to say something, though. I guarantee that when you took your daughter over there for your mom to show you guys how to make that, she didn't measure anything.
No.
She didn't measure anything.
No, so I couldn't. I'm like, in me. So I'm kind of, I was good. We said earlier in the thing, I was going for accounting, so I'm a little analytically minded. I'm like, okay, so now how many pans of cornbread did you make? Well, I made that ahead of time before y'all got here to speed it up. I'm like, Mom, like, I'm trying to write this down. This is history. I got, and so I think we finally come up with something. Like, and then, if it's just a little dry, you add a little more chicken broth to it, or whatever. I'm like, a little more what? And so, full disclosure, I have no chef training. I am not a great cook. I was taught to be a great manager and a pretty great baker. Okay, but my wife can throw down.
Yeah.
She would be somebody that could sit here with you and Gary and talk about, I put a little this, I put a little that, and I still to this day that's impressive to me. Like when I meet a chef like you or some of the other people here at Benny Keith, it just that is impressive to me because it's just all floating around up there in y'all's heads and y'all just kind of knock it out, execute it. When I'm cooking at home, Jill's, off with a kid doing something or whatever, I'm like, I'm so boring. And it's like I got a recipe card out. And I'm, like one little simple dessert that I make is like this triple berry cobbler. Real easy, right? It's butter and but I still have to get the recipe card out. I almost have it memorized. But for me, being weird like that, I still get out her little handwritten card, and review and great cooks
Yeah.
don't do that crap.
Well, this is the thing, man. It's so funny. So I started like a cookbook with my kids, and there's only like two or three things in there right now, but one of them is pancakes, and we have like our own little recipe for our pancakes, you know.
Yeah.
And
Don't share it.
I
Somebody will patent it and get in front of you.
do pull that card out. Like I pull it out and
Okay.
look at it. Like I have it memorized,
Yeah.
but I always look at it
Yeah.
because you talk about like my wife being a critic of my food, which is another conversation. My kids, like Oliver will be like, Dad, they're not as fluffy as last time, you know? And he'll be like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, are you serious, man?
Yeah.
Like that pancake looks pretty good. Well, yeah, it was double the size last time, Dad. I'm like, man, go to your room. No, it's like, but everybody, do you know how many people say to my wife, like, oh, you probably eat really good at home. Your husband's a chef.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, do you know how many times I've messed stuff up? Because she's my tester.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, and my wife's got a good palate. So it's like, I will test something out. 75% of it's terrible. You know, I'm always trying something. She's like, babe, I wish you just would have done this. I just wanted a steak. I didn't want you to do this, this, and this too.
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm trying it out for a recipe for the restaurant. It's Sunday. I just want to eat dinner.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. Why don't you go to just trying your sauces on me?
Yeah.
Execute the steak, and then if I don't like the sauce, I can go back to the steak.
Yeah, we just do that. We do that.
That's right.
It's, you know, Gary cooks at the firehouse all the time. And he's constantly sending me pictures like, check this out, you know, what he's doing on the Blackstone, whether it be fried rice or I cooked his tenderloin the other day and I do this. A lot of times, him and Izzy came in last night and I sat down and talked to him for a second. He's talking about something food. And Izzy's just rolling her eyes. She's like, oh, he's like the chef over there at the firehouse.
Yeah, that's it.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Great.
Everything's got to have a demi glaze.
Everything.
I'm preparing this with a certain demi glaze.
You talk about like, so people being able to just like kind of like this spice and that spice and make it taste good, but that doesn't work at the restaurant. So like, one thing that my sous chef has gotten a lot better at, he's amazing, Johnny Kane, but so we'll put a recipe together, right? And then, you know, I'll watch, whether it be John or Kate or whoever it is working on a new recipe. We're like, hey, this panna cotta is fantastic, but I don't see a recipe in the book because you don't want to be, I say, you're a victim of your own success. Yeah. We just sold 15 of them today. We got to make more, but there ain't no recipe, so you're the one making it because you're the only one that knows how to make it. Yeah. But I saw when you did it last time, you kind of did this little hand thing and threw something in there. Is that on the recipe?
Right.
Well, I just added a little bit more. Is it on the recipe?
Yeah.
It has to be on a recipe.
Yeah.
One, I got to cost it out.
Yeah.
And I got to cost it out properly. Two, consistency is everything. And three, again, you don't want to be a victim of it. You don't want to be so proud of a dish that sells so well. But guess what you're doing every single day when you come in? You're making it.
Yeah. It cannibalizes on all your other offerings.
Yeah. You just, somebody else has to be able to make it. And make it the same exact way that you do, you know, so putting procedures together. If you see my recipe book, next time you're in, I have to show you. Okay. The recipe book at Brewed and Barley, because I am such a bullnose about that. Dude, it's a foot tall. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, you know?
Well, that speaks to y'all's, you know, when I bragged earlier in the episode, I mean, that speaks to y'all's consistency.
I mean,
for sure.
I mean, everybody listening to this podcast will know. Like, that's the biggest thing. Yep. I mean, everybody talks about it, but it's true. It is. It has to be consistent.
Temperature inside the restaurant, temperature of the food, portions of the food, quality of the food. I mean, it's like, you know, in a aerial view, you know, looking up at the top, you think, oh, it's pretty simple to execute, you know, a pizza. Yeah. But when you start digging into, hey, you know, is it comfortable inside the restaurant? Did we get the floors, you know, swept good? Did we get? And it's like that's what I kind of do. I come in with my eye and, you know, work with the team and say, hey, look, let's stand at the front counter and let's scan the restaurant. What do we see? Yeah. Ask the why. Why do we have a broom sitting over here? And I'm constantly, you know, trying to encourage my team members. Like, I know you got to be able to get to it to, you know, sweep under the tables, but we need to get it out of the sight. The customer, you know, so you're constantly just, you know, working alongside them and say, hey, let's scan and think, what are we seeing from the customer's perspective? When you stand at the front counter to pick up, 3 or 4 larges, because that's what I need. Lots of sales, baby. You're looking into the kitchen, and we got our ovens clean, and we got,
Yeah.
'cause that's what the customer's doing. They're sitting there waiting for you to bag everything up, and, are we giving them our best?
Yeah.
So let me touch on something from the very beginning, because I think it'll fit right into the special y'all did the other night at the restaurant. So when Shotgun Dan's was created, my dad was in the military. He'd had experiences in Sacramento, California. He was stationed there. He was stationed in Altus, Oklahoma. And so he'd eat several pizza restaurants out there, right? His official training was at a national pizza brand. Not going to say the name. But when he was part-time in the military, he was doing some training there. So when he opened up, his product, his offering, July 1977, was very similar to what was main scene, like pizza then. Like national pizza chain, it'd be a mainstream offering, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a medium to thin crust, good quality toppings in a good stone baked oven, right?
Right.
So he starts putting it out there, and I think he had a lot of beer specials back then when he first opened. And so these old guys would come in, get a couple pitchers of beer, and Dad would, kind of like we talked about earlier, he would sit down with them, visit with them. And so he'd say, hey, what's feedback or whatever? Hey, good product, great, quality toppings. Could you put a little bit more on it?
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, we can try that, right? So he starts building the pies bigger, thicker, more cheese. So after about 30 days, he sits down with these guys again. And he says, hey, what do you think? And they said, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what we think the customer wants, our fellow customers, our peers. We know this is what we want.
Right.
And my dad says, I can't make any money this way. I'm glad you love it, but I can't make any money. But I'm telling you, this is 47 years ago now, and they just looked right across from him and they said, then go up.
Yeah.
This is your product.
Yeah.
So, what is really awesome about this legacy is that the customer input, that customer relationship, that partnership, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you and I don't have the customers, we can't.
Yeah.
We don't have a business, right?
Yeah.
If we don't have a restaurant, they're not coming and getting your great food or my great pizza, right? So we're a team. We got to make the customer happy, and we hope that we're providing something, an outlet for them to get away from something or whatever. And so I just love that story that the customers help him design the no skimping pizza.
That's awesome.
We don't measure it; everything's by sight, and we just load it up.
You need to put that on a shirt if you haven't already.
Yeah.
No skimping pizza.
Yeah, we've actually got that patented. My marketing team, it's a husband and wife team, Jody and Glenn, they do great. They helped me go and get that patented, so we got it on our box. But you're right, that would be good on our
That'd be awesome on a
shirt,
t-shirt.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
But so we started doing that, and we put so much on it that your typical pizza, mainstream pizza places, they're putting their cheese on at the bottom after they put their sauce on. Now, okay, if we're in Chicago, the sauce is going on top. I know. We're talking about more New York style, I guess. So the cheese, then all your toppings, it all melts together.
Yeah.
Dad started having to put cheese on top of the toppings to hold them together, so when he went through it with a slicer, that they just didn't fly everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we go through. I was told one time, we've got 3 units. I was told we go through as much cheese as most 10 or 12 unit pizza places.
Wow.
We're going through almost 5,000 to 6,000 pounds a week.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we throw down on the cheese. And it's 100% fresh, never frozen. It comes in twice a week.
Heck yeah.
And if I had to say, hey, you're going to open a pizza place, what would I tell you? I would tell you fresh cheese, the freshest ingredients you can get.
Now,
and that's the takeaway.
When it comes to cheese, are you doing is it Mott's? Is it like a blend? Is it a Buffalo Mott? It's
100% Mott's.
It's 100%.
No provolone, no Gouda. No, I know there's a big chain out there that does a little bit of a Munster in their Mott's blend.
There's a million. There's
Yeah.
a million different.
Yeah.
When you go to like those cheese expo, or
Right.
not cheese expos, but when you go to like a Benny Keith food show or something like that, and you look like all the stalls, like different cheeses, and you're like, oh my God,
It's endearing.
Lost in
Yeah,
it.
you can. Yeah. That's right. But like for you the other night, you know, you guys did that special. What was the name of it again?
Which one was it?
Death.
We did the Death Row dinner.
Death Row Dinner, right? And so you took some of your people on your team, and they churned out, you know, what was their favorite.
Yeah.
And then, you know, all the customers got to come in and hear and kind of tell you, you know, hey, this is amazing, you know, whatever. And it's like that interaction of being able to share something so personal with the customer. And then who knows what's next? The customer's going to say, hey, this is, and you may end up with it on the menu.
Yeah.
You know,
true.
It makes it special. The relationship side of this business is what makes it great.
I tell you, so we have, you know, we mentioned Gary a few times, but I have like other regulars of ours, you know, that we've become pretty close with, you know, and might play poker every once in a while or something like that. But if we're going to run a special and I see like, say, Bo and Christy, if I see them sitting at the bar, I'd be like, hey, let's put one together for Bo and Christy. I want to get their opinion on it, see what they think, you know? Because they're gonna be honest with me. They're gonna tell me, you know, they're gonna be like, hey, you know what, man, I really like this, but it might be a little spicy, or you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. And those are relationships that you can't take away anything from. It's such a cool feeling. It's just a good feeling, you know. And we have a lot of those people. And we talked about like Death Row Dinner. So in turn, we started thinking about like the opposite. Like what would be, is there anything, I can tell you what mine is right now, which is crazy. Every time I say this to people, they're like, Brian, you sell a ton of salmon. Like, man, we sell so much salmon. And I got pretty good cooking salmon at a place back home. Okay. You know, butchering salmon, the whole thing. And I mean, it was a giant venue. I mean, we're doing hundreds and hundreds of pounds a week of salmon. And we sell a ton of salmon at Brewed and Barley. But man, if I tell you, like the opposite of my death row meal, if like they were like, what would be your meal that if somebody put it in front of you, you'd be like, I'm sorry, I just can't eat that. It would be salmon. I can't stand it, man. I just can't. And everybody's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
They're like, because you cook it good. And I'm like, I can't eat it. And my wife, I cooked salmon for her last weekend, and it was just for her. I made myself something different. Like I can cook it, but I can't eat it. Is there anything that you're just like, no, get that away from me?
Man, I don't know what that would be. I was sitting there trying to think about it while you're finishing up the story, and nothing really comes to mind. I mean, even though I've been eating pizza for 45 years, probably had a baby bottle and then a slice of pepperoni beside it. Maybe a pepperoni.
Yeah.
Maybe it'd be like, oh, no, I can't do it.
I just can't do it anymore.
It's like if I go in there and make myself now, and I'm going to lose 50% of my customers. I know it's probably stupid to even admit this, but I'll put a little pineapple on my pizza these days.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll share it sometimes, and people just want to just beat me up right then, But I don't do it often, guys. I don't do it often, but every now and then I'll make a pepperoni, Canadian bacon, pineapple, and diced jalapeno.
There you go.
And, you get the spicy and the sweet, that contrast. And so... and then there's days I just go in, I get a slice of Big Dan, hey, make me a 7-inch real quick, and I grab that.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm making me a salad, throwing that together and putting some bacon on there and, some of our homemade Thousand Island. And,
heck yeah.
I'm rocking that out and just moving on to my next Google appointment,
Man, what's, all right, so you have 2 locations. So you got Sherwood, you got Rose City. Oh, you got 3.
3, yeah. And Markham, the Little Rock one. Yeah, you're in Dogtown too much. You don't get out
You're
the Little
right.
Rock.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So you got 3.
Yeah.
Man, I bang my head against the wall with 1 restaurant. How do you do it with 3? I mean, it's got to be a staffing thing. I mean, you have to have good managers. Team. You got to have a good team,
Yeah. My dad created a great support team. We've got a lady named Suzanne that's in my office that's been with us almost 30 years.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, she's running interference on a ton of stuff day to day, or we're at least partnering up on it, So we this morning we already had an electrical issue at one of the stores, and then we had a drain issue 2 days ago at one of the stores. And so, those things hit. We got a group text, and she's helping me execute either me going and doing it or somebody coming to do it. And so, like, you know, at the corporate level, there's myself, my best friend of 35 years, John Clamp. He's kind of my part-time district manager, full-time, but you can only allocate boots in the store about part-time. But we all know it's a full-time job anyway, all the time, right? Restaurant, my phone never stops ringing.
Ever.
But, yeah, so us three, and then we've got anywhere from 6 to 8 managers at a given time that day-to-day operate the restaurant. So we've us, I guess, usually 9 to 10 people, you know, just figure it out. We get it. I mean, if it's something quick I can fix, you know, back to the high-paid maintenance guy, I'll come fix it. You know, if I got a dough sheeter that needs a chain or a sprocket, I'll go knock it out. You know, if I've got a belt off a vent hood, I'll crawl up on the roof and do it.
Get it done.
You know, if I've got time. And like one of my managers at Sherwood, now he's starting to learn to work on my ovens.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, so he's kind of following my lead, which came from my dad of, hey, it's not that you can't most of the time. It's that you don't want to.
Yeah.
So let's try to fix the oven. If we screw it up, we'll just bring somebody in and fix it.
Yeah.
But let's challenge ourselves to, you know, hey, it just needs a thermocoupler.
Yeah.
It's like a $10 part, but it's going to be a $150 service call.
Yeah.
You know, and so we do it.
And, you know, nowadays, you know, we talked about everybody with their reviews and stuff, but you can Google, you know, you get on YouTube and you just find out how to change this coupler. I mean, you can do it, you know. It's something we haven't dove into a ton. My cousin's a lot more handy than I am.
Jess is good at that? Okay.
Yeah, Jess is a little bit more handy, and we have Adam too. So Adam will at least try. He'll give it a try for sure.
But under those 9 of us, we've gotten about 80 other employees that execute it. So.
Now, do any of your employees like cross train? Like might be in Rose City one week and then a couple days out in Sherwood?
No, we don't.
Don't do any of that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, just because it gets really confusing on record keeping for Department of Labor stuff.
Ah, okay.
You know, because if say I got a guy, you know, say Adam's at Rose City and he's worked 25 hours, and he ends up over at Markham, and you know he works another 30. He's at 55 hours for the week. So who's paying the overtime? Rose City, Markham, and just other regular. You know, I know some restaurants that have done some of that in the past, and it's you've got to really be on your toes to make sure you're keeping up with all that stuff. Sure. You know, so that's, you know, kind of to the inception of this question. Yeah, there begins to come some real challenges when you step outside of one restaurant, because it would be easy to say, hey, send me 2 people to, you know, knock out this dinner rush, but you just can't do it. You got to figure it out some other way. Yeah. You know? It's
funny too. Is like, well, again, you know, for the third time I'm saying it, is yet another piece of the restaurant business that you have to figure out. You know, it's, you know, the labor, which is tough right now, and then it'd be really cool to be able to work both places. But who's paying that OT? And
you know, and even if you were college educated through small business, right? So I switched from accounting to small business entrepreneurship. I don't remember a class that specifically said, hey, you should never move a cook from this place to this. Right? I mean, that's just, you know, you're just learning that by experience, you know? So anyways.
And figuring it out. Yeah. Well, like you know, you had your dad to help you out with a lot of that stuff, you know. Me, you know, my cousin is more of front of the house oriented than I am. I've worked a lot of front of the house and everything like that. I've done it, but you know, again, it's different. There's so many pieces to the puzzle, you know.
Yeah.
So many pieces to the puzzle. It's crazy that not a lot of people understand. You know? Yeah. People just don't get it.
We've never introduced, you know, liquor into we just do beer and wine. Mm-hmm. And we've had some people, you know, over the years saying, hey, why don't you have, you know, like a whiskey and Coke? You know, and I said, man, I just don't, that's a bear I don't want to tackle.
Yeah.
With the inventory and the challenges of it executing a correct cocktail, what have you, is just, I mean, you could speak to that. Man. Restaurant guys may want to hear, you know, a minute on that about, so you know, the blessings and the curses.
I mean,
you know.
So you talk about consistency and you talk about, like, you know, food coming out of the kitchen and it being the same. We just got done talking about recipes. The bar is the same thing, man. Yeah. I mean, it is the same exact thing to the T. It's the same thing. And when we sit down and we interview bartenders, again, it goes back to, I don't care where you've worked, okay? If you're going to work here, this is what you're going to do. We don't free pour anything.
Yeah.
Nope. Everything is costed out properly. Everything gets measured. An ounce and a half is an ounce and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a jigger, you measure it.
Yeah.
Okay. If I catch you free pouring, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. One, again, we just talked about costing and everything like that. But two, it's consistency.
Yeah.
If you're making an old fashioned and I'm making an old fashioned, say we talked about table 14. Guy's seat 1, table 14. He just had an old fashioned that you made.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now you're on break and he wants another old fashioned. So now I'm making it. It better be the same damn old fashioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. And people listening, they may be hearing a little bit of a harsh tone on that, but it's not. It's a standard.
Yeah.
You know, and in the restaurant business, we got to have standards that we're trying to meet because we know that's what the customer expects. You know,
Absolutely.
We got one of the most amazing militaries around. You know why? Because they got high standards.
Yeah.
And they have, you know, checklists. And I mean, my dad was huge in checklists, right? Because
Yeah.
the military thing, like, okay, if you're going to do this, then it's a 10 checklist bullet point item, you know, but it's back to consistency. It's about to having a game plan. You know, we can get analogous with football.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of days you and I are in there and we're coaching up the team.
Yeah.
We're cheerleading. We're rah-rahing. Hey, man, let's do this. Let's make somebody happy today. Somebody's in there doing an office party at lunch. Let's knock this out.
Yeah.
You know, we have an opportunity to really bless somebody today. You know, let's give somebody a free root beer at the drive-thru.
Yeah.
You know, just to put a smile on their face, or, you know, it's like, so you're doing a lot of that too. You know, you're kind of mentoring and coaching, and, you know, then you're an accountant, and then, you know, you're a maintenance guy, and then maybe you're a counselor one day, you know. Tell me what happened to.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a counselor. Like most of those days, I'm a counselor.
Yeah.
Your boyfriend did what?
Yeah.
Where'd he go? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, when it happens. But I mean, you know, the other thing is too is that the liquor business right now is saturated, and I'm not trying to pull that in a negative way, but like bourbon's not going anywhere. Bourbon is bourbon, and there's always going to be a new bourbon and a new hot thing on the market and all that kind of stuff. But keeping up with trends too, like tequila's trending hard right now. Rum's going to be the next trend. It's keeping up on all that stuff. You know, it's certainly not easy.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think maybe next place we open up is just beer and shot. That's it.
Yeah.
Beer and shot.
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. I want this. No, I ain't got it. I got this.
Yeah.
The first old man I ever drank with, a place called the Horseman back home, like Irish pub I pretty much grew up in. I'd be like, hey, can I get a Long Island iced tea? Nope, Yingling Lager. There you go. That's how it is.
There you go.
Oh, man. Well, Josh, man, I really, really appreciate you coming on. We had a good
Absolutely.
time. And I knew from the start this was going to be. It's like banter. Like I wasn't worried about it coming on. I mean, I think we have a good rapport. We have a lot of similarities, a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And I know I can learn a lot of stuff from you. And I appreciate our relationship, man.
Yeah, equally. Thank you so much for having me on. And
Yeah.
you know, it's about a team effort going forward. You know, so we'll keep supporting each other. And you know, people listening in. You know, you've got to have a great distribution team. You know, Benny Keats is obviously our host here of this podcast, so they help people execute things. And
Feeling it.
we would encourage, I think, maybe to end on this, we would encourage you need to get that group of other restaurateurs.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, we expect to have a team to execute this product. We need our support, to keep executing our product, our family, or whatever. You just need those kind of life friends, to get through this thing.
Takes a village.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, I'd like to thank Benny Keith. I'd certainly like to thank General Manager Rusty Mathis for allowing us to do this over here at Benny Keith Studios. And certainly Rob Nelson, sir, the head of technology over here at Benny Keith, for making us sound good. That was Heaping Spoonful, Josh Woodard, and we'll have you back sometime soon, man.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.